Hi, this is the Getting Connected module from within DataMiner Fundamentals. It's not only just getting connected, but it's also finding our way a little bit in that layout, in that UI, and a little bit talking about some of the goodies I need to get a little bit find my way around, you could say. So we're going to be talking about accessing the system, but once we have access, we will also discuss the layout, and the sidebar will be of particular interest with that surveyor in there, which is very convenient to navigate around in my system. And also properties is something I want to highlight within that surveyor. So, okay, that's first of all, let's just access our system, and we will do that by going to our DataMiner.services. So we open up a web browser, we go to DataMiner.services, and then we will see all of our DataMiner systems we have access to. Note, you need to select on the upper right hand side your correct organization. So I select my organization and I see my DataMiner systems. Well, from that DataMiner system, you do have the possibility then to open up the monitoring app, which is the web-based version, or you can also open up in a desktop app, and then it will open up that system in our DataMiner Cube application. That's the desktop application you can install, so there's also a convenient button here to install the desktop application called DataMiner Cube. So there are two ways of accessing your DataMiner system, just the monitoring app web-based or the full DataMiner Cube FAT client, as they call it. There are more features available in the FAT client, so I will typically use that full DataMiner Cube application. Now, let's take a look at that maybe, because in the previous session we did spin up a DataMiner system. So you also have the possibility to spin up that DataMiner system. So if you did that in the previous session, you will have on the upper right hand side your organization there. So I created previously BERT training organization, and in there I created the demo system that I made in the previous one. So this is a DataMiner as a service. So if I click on the monitoring app, it will open up that DataMiner system. And I will see, of course, since it's a brand new DataMiner system that I just created a minute ago, it's basically almost blank. Instead of one element that has been added in there, the DataMiner agent itself, which does the monitoring of the node itself there. So because this system is rather empty, you could say, I will typically mainly use our training platform, and you should have access to the training platform if you are part of the certification. So if you're following a certification, you should have an invite to also be part of the Skyline Academy, and within the Skyline Academy you will have your training agents. You will only have one, and there you can open up the monitoring app as well and log in with your credentials. So let me log in with my credentials here on that one. And there we will see that this application or this system basically has a lot more to it, and we have some more examples that we will be able to leverage here. So that's the reason why I will typically use this training system that is available. So if you do certification, that should be available as well. If you do not have access to any of those predefined systems, I will show you another trick you can do. Now, to take one step back, let's go back to my BERT training, where we have one demo system. So I'm able to open up the monitoring app, but I can also open up in desktop app. So if I click on open up in desktop app, it will basically try to open the desktop application. If you don't have it installed yet, you can use this button on the upper right hand side. If you click on that, it will download a small executable, and if you downloaded it, you can just execute it. If it's already installed, which is happens to be the case here, it will just open up the DataMiner Cube application. The DataMiner Cube application starts with a welcome screen here, where you have your DataMiner systems. Yeah, on a new installation, this would be empty. I already have it installed and I have some systems that are available already. So I actually have the training system here available, but if I want to add this new demo system that I started just a minute ago, you can click on the button to open it immediately in the desktop app, or you can click on the plus sign to specify the URL or the IP address of any of your DataMiner systems. So also systems local host without DataMiner cloud connections can be added to there by specifying the host name or the IP address of your system. So in this case, it's an on DataMiner services URL, so I can also add this one in here. So I added this one in here, and now it's available throughout my other systems, and I can reorganize that, for instance, over there. So if I click on that one, it will connect to that DataMiner system with the full DataMiner Cube application. As I said, this one is a little bit empty, so I will maybe open up another cube in meantime by connecting to my training demo system, which is a little bit more populated. Be aware, here it is trying to log in with my credentials, but I have not logged in on that yet, so it doesn't know any correct credentials yet. At the bottom, I can choose the user. I need to go to other user, and remember from the when I created my DAS system, I needed to specify a username and password. So the username was admin, and the password is something I remember very well, but I'm not going to share it. And I can remember it here, so then it will automatically log in next time. So I do have this system, which is a little bit going to be empty, as I mentioned on the monitoring app, where you just have your DataMiner agent. So for that reason, I'm not going to use this for demos, but I'm going to use this training system that has been made available in the Skyline Academy organization. So if you do certification, you will have this system available for you to play around with and to have some more examples. Now, if you don't have your local DAS system that you just started, or your own DAS system that you just started, or this training environment, there is a third option possible. And that is also documented on our docs website. So I didn't mention our docs website yet, but we have docs.dataminer.services, which is a fantastic resource to find all kinds of things. And one of the things which is well defined in there is Zine. We have the Zine demo system there. So if you search on Zine, Z-I-I-I-N-E, Zine demo system, you will see that actually there is a Zine available on the URL. You see it over here, the URL zine.skyline.be. So if I actually go to my DataMiner Cube home screen again, let me open up another instance. I can add a plus sign there, add this in there, zine.skyline.be, and add it in there. So, and this is, I already have it actually here. And this is actually a system which is available for everybody that has a Dojo account. Because if I go to that Zine system, it will give me a pop-up, and it's going to be the same pop-up as we know in the Dojo website. On the Dojo website, you do have the possibility there as well to sign in with one of those identity providers or with an email. Well, if you created an account on the Dojo website, you can use the same account here, and it will automatically log you in onto that Zine platform. The only disadvantage is that this Zine platform has limited rights for you. Everybody can view things, and that's great for the fundamentals sessions here, but you are not able to start creating new items in there, adding elements, playing around with alarm and trend templates and these kind of things. So that's not possible. So for the next sessions, or the part where we go into the configuration, the configurator part, then you might need to use your demo platform, which is still maybe a little bit empty, but there you can create elements and play around with templates. But for now, we are in the fundamentals part, so I'm going to focus on our training system that has been made available in the Academy. So let's recap. I go to dataminer.services, I choose my organization on the right-hand side here, and then I go to one of your DataMiner systems there, either the monitoring app, which is a lightweight HTML5 application, or you go to the full-blown DataMiner Cube application open in desktop. So that's what I wanted to cover here. Okay, so getting started, going to dataminer.services, select new organization and open up one of these applications. I didn't really go into too much details, but if you go for the monitoring app, you will have automatic login based on your account from dataminer.services, which is linked to your account on the DataMiner system. If you open up the Cube application, I mentioned that at the bottom there, you might need to choose other and specify your username password. So be aware there is an account to log in on dataminer.services, and there is an account to log in on the DataMiner system itself. Those are two separate things, but they are available for each other. Okay. So that's what I mentioned there with the switching between users, other user and local users. And you have that possibility to integrate with Active Directory and SAML. You saw it a little bit with Zine. Zine actually uses an external identity provider, but there is a possibility also to integrate with your SAML identity provider. So if maybe you have, you're using Okta, then you can actually use Okta as well as an external identity provider. So let's take a look at the layout. So in the layout, we distinguish first of all, the header bar at the top in blue. We have the sidebar in gray, which has the extension open here with the Surveyor, number 3. And then we have our cards pane where we can open up one or multiple cards actually. And at the bottom we have the alarm console we can open up to investigate our alarms in our DataMiner system. So that's how it looks like. Let's take a look at it one by one to have a further deep look at what the features and functionalities are. So first of all, opening a single card when we are by default navigating with the DataMiner system. And let me open up our training platform. It has a so-called single card behavior. It means if I click on an item in the Surveyor, it opens up the associated card, so the backup IRD. If I click on the main IRD, it opens up the main. If I click on Europe, it opens up the Europe view. So whenever I click on something, it opens up the associated card. That's what we call, you could say, the single card behavior. Now, if you open up a card, you will have a sidebar in the card as well, and that's important to note. If I switch back, which allows you to switch between the so-called visual and so-called data view. And if we click on the data view, we will see all the parameters, all the data coming back from the equipment, depending on the equipment, of course, or depending on the system or the data source. We will see specific parameters. More here we have a couple of levels from this IRD. Could also be more a table with the interfaces from a switch, for instance, or with nodes running in the cloud service somewhere, a table, transport stream. So it all depends on where we get the information from, what will be displayed here. And we do have different pages here, an audio demodulator setup page, we have a general page, we have different pages there. Note you can also open up the sidebar to easily switch between visual and data. So the visual way and the data way. And there you then also have those sub pages with audio demodulator setup and things like that. So depending on the connector we have, the type of device, you will have other pages there and other data coming back. So with each time also for the Europe view, you will have the visual way and then the data way. Well, what is actually in a view? Well, that's a number of elements. That's a combination of all the elements in there. So that's the visual and the data on an element, you could say. All right, so you click select and you switch between the visual and the data. That's the foundation of navigating around and opening up a single card in the DataMiner system. Now, it is also possible to open up multiple cards, and you can do that by right-clicking and going for open a new card, or you can also open up an undocked card. Let's play around with that. So if I right click, so I currently, just to be clear, I have the backup open. So let's right click on the main and open a new card. So let me just quickly, you didn't see that. But by default, it's typically unproportional. I'll go back to that setting in just a second. So now I have two cards open side by side, and I can open up even another card, or let me open up a view, for instance, open a new card. And this one is now open over there. So I can also reorganize them if you want them to have in a different order. I can maybe open up yet another one, open a new card, etc. So you can also right click and open up an item in a undocked card. So this way, for instance, USA, I'm opening it up in an undocked card. And now I would be able to easily, for instance, put it on a second monitor like that. Or I can also dock it again, and then it will also be added in there. Let me close the switch here. And let me maybe reorganize my views next to each other side by side, the two states there, or continents, or countries. Doesn't really matter. So that's how you can easily open up different cards next to each other. One small trick, if you want to take this one back to your second monitor again, so I said you can reorganize them. Well, you can actually also just click and drag the cards, and if you drag it outside of your cube, it will actually automatically undock, and now you can bring it to your second monitor. So let me dock it again and reposition it again. All right, so that's playing around with your cards, opening them up. One side note also is you can click on the card menu item here, the so-called hamburger menu, and there you can also see that undock, the MasterCard. I'll come back to that. Pinning of items is also available there, but closing cards and other cards and things like that, so those actions are also available in there. So you can use the right click here to undock a card or open a card undocked, or you can also undock it from here, or drag and drop, or drag it out of cube. All right. So that is the possibility to open an undocked card, and this is an undocked card that we have here, and then we can dock it back to the workspace as well. So we have two cards open side by side and one undocked card in this screenshot. Opening multiple cards, convenient. But I already showed it a little bit. We do have different layout options because you might have noticed when I opened it up, the first two items, one was bigger than the other. Here they are proportionally in size, the same size. But if I click on my user icon, and I go to the change layout here, by default it's proportional, but actually mine was still on master left or master right or master top or master bottom. It's always the same thing. It's just where the bigger card is. For instance, let's go for master left. Then we have one item which can be a little bit bigger, and you can choose which one. For instance, let's put Europe in there. and then have a couple of other cards which are smaller next to that. So you can make some nice workspaces, layouts with these kind of layout options here. And a popular one is the tab layout. There you basically have the possibility to have it more full screen available, so you can work on the backup, you can work on the main device, you can go into Europe. So then it's in different tab pages. You can easily switch between one and the other. So that's also a possibility, the tab layout, which you can switch to. So you have various options to play around, open up cards, single card behavior, manually open it next to it, each other in a certain layout as indicated here, and the tab layout being the special version with tabs at the top. Okay. So I already mentioned that you do have the possibility to drag a card around. I played with it as well. If I go back to my change layout with the master, so you can drag and make it a little bit bigger or smaller. So you do have those kind of layout options. And I mentioned the menu with the other options in there. So set as master card can also be done using that hamburger menu. Instead of dragging it around to the master position, you can use the set as master in that menu. Okay, so those are the layout options. Now let's take a look at the header bar. So the header bar, you do have here a couple of options more than my header bar. Let's take a look at it. By default, my header bar has less options in here. It shows the cluster name, but that's by default enabled. But it doesn't show, for instance, the 4 cube sites. Let's play around with that. Well, as the slides show you, you can click on that small arrow icon to have a couple of those options activated or deactivated. So if I click on there, show cube sites, well, there it is. We have the rectangles there. So if I'm working here on something and I quickly want to do something else, I can actually open up a brand new workspace and start working, for instance, let's say on an HPA here, and do some other stuff, on something else, and do some settings here. And then switch back to my previous view there. So you do have the possibility to easily switch between different cube sites, as we call them, a little bit workspaces, to do different jobs at the same time and to do some switching between them. So that's the cube sites you can activate or deactivate. You can also show the server time. If your time, if you work in different time zones, it might be convenient to show the cube time there as well, or the time of the DataMiner system, because that's where your alarms are generated from. And you can also, if you want, deactivate that search box, but I don't think that's that interesting. Okay, so those are a couple of options to tweak this, the header bar to your needs in terms of what is being displayed and what is being shown and hidden. Now that menu of your user contains some more items I quickly want to discuss, and one of them settings I want to discuss in a little bit more detail. So first one is if you click on your username or on your user icon, you have your username and some account details. Yeah, you can play around with that. Your group membership, your permissions are in there. Alerts, we'll take a look at that later on. So you can see what kind of security settings you have. Convenience that you can also see the other online contacts. So if other people are also connected to the system, you can see who's online, who's connected to the system. So if I'm running into a problem and I need some help, I know this guy is also working on the system, I can contact him. And actually, nobody is online here, so I cannot show it. But if somebody is online, you can actually start a chat and send them a text message or a chat message as well, integrated into this chat there. So you can play around with that. If you click on the person, you can start chatting with him or her. The next item is settings, and I want to take a look at that because there are a couple of settings I want to highlight. So if you click on your username, you have the settings pop-up that comes available here. By default, most of the settings will be for my user. There are a couple of computer settings more related to connection type of things, but typically all my settings are associated with my user. And it doesn't matter if I'm connecting from my tablet, my laptop, my desktop, or another machine that I'm using. If I log in with my user, I always have my settings available. So those are stored on the system itself. For instance, a simple one is the background theme. If it's more a black or light theme, there are some regional language settings in there as well. There are many settings in there. I'm not going to touch all of them here, but now throughout the modules, now and then, I will show you more settings here and there. One I want to mention is connection. There is by default an automatic disconnect after 1 hour. If you don't like that, disable that option. So if you don't use the system automatically, it will disconnect after 1 hour. You can disable that. So these kind of settings are available in that settings window. Now, there are many more settings also, for instance, on the alarm console. We will see a little bit more about that. But one thing I want to mention about settings is I have my user settings here, but at the bottom, I do have a configure group button. The configure group button allows you to configure group settings. If I click on there, I can see that there are a number of groups, administrators, trainers, and training. For instance, I can say, well, all the administrators, I want to assign some new settings, or I can copy existing settings, some new settings. And if I have them assigned, if I open them, if I select and open them, now you can see at the top, I'm no longer configuring the settings of my user, but I'm configuring the settings of all the administrators. And I could say, well, the administrators, the connection, well, they should actually be disconnected after 30 minutes for security reasons. If they leave a computer behind, it automatically disconnects after 30 minutes. And I can actually also here say that the user can currently override this setting, so they can still change it, but I can lock it. And I can say, well, now it's enforced. If any of the administrators that are part of this administrators group, they will no longer be able to change this setting from 30 minutes to 60 minutes or disable this. No, they will need to live with the 30 minutes that I configured. I enforced this for the whole group. They can no longer change it. You can actually also make it invisible as well. So now it's even invisible. They don't even know that the setting exists. So that's what you can do with group settings. So you can use them to enforce something, but you can also use them to have a good default. So it's also about changing the defaults. You don't necessarily have to enforce it. Okay, I canceled that and I just closed that. So that is the group settings, which might come in handy at some points. Okay, more settings will definitely pop up later here and there, but for now, I think that is sufficient with that settings window. Okay, now let's take a look at the sidebar. So the sidebar is the bar at the very left-hand side, which contains the important surveyor. I'll come back to the surveyor later on, but let's take a look at the other items in there as well. And the first one is activity, and that's a quite convenient one because if I go to activity, I will see if I just close the cards here, I will actually see all the items that I have been accessing. So I did access my main backup Europe USA view, and I can easily get them open them again by just selecting them. So if you know, like, okay, I was working on that, I can easily bring that up again. And that same history is also here at the background page here, where you can see that same thing. So if you open up Cube, you immediately say, oh, let's continue my work. Or if I'm opening it up on another computer, the same settings will be available there. Convenient is if I definitely want to make sure that this view never disappears, I do have the possibility to pin an item. Let's do that with my main and my backup as well, for instance. Oh, I didn't main. So my main and my backup are now in there as well. So that's how you can easily pin items there so that they will always remain there. Even if I didn't access them in a longer period of time, you will always have them readily available there. Convenient, the activity section there. Now, we do have then the apps at the third position there, where we do have some of the DataMiner modules. Typically, those are more the advanced modules, like we have here Automation, System Center. We will come back to the modules later on quite often, so that will be coming up later more intensively. At the bottom, we do have a link to the community, so you can click on community, go immediately to the blog, the questions. So we do have those items immediately available. Yeah, you know, the community website, community.dataminer.services. Our community website makes that immediately available from there. Oops. Let's go back to my slides. And one last item in there is that workspaces. So what is a workspace? Well, I've been building some of those layouts where I was opening Europe, and then I was opening a backup, and I was opening a main device, and I was reorganizing that. Well, I don't want to do that every day. So maybe I want to save this layout with this view and a couple of those elements open. Well, if you want to save that layout, you can do that by going to Workspaces. And in Workspaces, you can save this, and let's just call it Bert Training for now. And let's just save that. And now I have that available there. So there is a button to clean the workspace, so I can clean it as well, so it closes all my cards. And now in one click of a button, tomorrow, for instance, I can log in, I can click on Bert's Training, and it opens up again that layout. Or I can go to, for instance, MCR London, where it opens up a couple of elements again, or London, or let's take this one, because I think this one has a view with it as well. Or yeah, this one had a view as well. With a London view, for instance, and some devices. And do note that the workspace also remembers the layout. So this is now a master layout, but for instance, this one you can already see it's a tab layout kind of icon. So you can see that it has just a couple of tab pages with some HPA devices and a TOR22 Earth station there. So that is a tab layout that is being stored there. But let's go back to my Bert Training. So that's my layout here with Europe and those IRTs, main and backup. So that's the workspaces. So I can make a layout, I can save workspace, give it a name, and then I can easily recall it. You can clean it, recall any of those workspaces. One thing to remember is that the workspaces are public. They are for all the users, so everybody sees all the workspaces that are available. There's no such thing as private things. When I create one, my colleagues will see it as well. If my colleagues are creating one, I will see theirs as well in there. Okay, so there's actually one more item in that sidebar. I was going to say the plus, but no, let's first go for that search. That's by default not there, but you can trigger that by clicking or starting a search from the top header bar. Let's play around with that. So let me just clean the workspace. If I search, for instance, for IRD, there are many IRDs in there, so I don't immediately find my main device, so maybe I need to add main as well, and then still lots of them are in there, but I actually already see it over there, my 11 layout IRD main. But you can also go for advanced search, and then it opens it up in the left hand side. And there you can also do more searching on, for instance, also services, parameters, protocols would be in there. If I go just for IRD, for instance, I will have more, and I will also see protocols for an IRD, etc. But if I go for elements, then I can also, for instance, filter on everything which is in alarm. So only the ones that are in alarm, or only the ones that are in minor alarm. So you can find there my 11 layout IRD backup element again. So that's a search tile or item that can be added in this section here. But if I clear the search again, or if I go somewhere else, it disappears. So you need to start from the search here, search on a keyword like test, in this case, advanced search, and then it pops up there. Okay, and actually the last item that I wanted to mention is that plus icon. So there is a plus icon, and you can add more items to it, so you can add up to 4 items. Let's play around with that. So if I click on the plus, I do have the possibility to add a couple of items in there. From the apps, you do have, for instance, that automation that I mentioned before, but let's maybe add System Center for later on. I will be able to use that during the configurator section, or training videos. So I can add another one. For instance, I have an overview there that I can open up to have an overview with all the elements in my system. So there are some various items you can add in here. Or for instance, I want to have the settings conveniently available. You can also right click and unpin them again if you want to remove them again. So you do have some possibilities to customize your sidebar as well with the items you want to be able to easily access and frequently access from there. Okay, so that's the possibility to customize your sidebar. Now let's take a look at that Surveyor. We kind of skipped the first item a little bit while we already opened the number of cards, but let's take a closer look at that. So we do have the icons in here, and you can see that we actually have a bubble up, you could say. So if I go into operations, I see there's a critical. I can see that there are some criticals in Europe, and they are mainly in Amsterdam and Brussels, that I can further drill down into that region to see where, up to the element where the actual element is into alarm. So you do have that bubble up. I don't have any timeouts here. Let me see if I have a timeout on the Zine platform. So on the Zine platform, we do have some timeout, an orange, it's very small, an orange cross is bubbling up separately to the top. So you can see that there is one element here which is in timeout or unresponsive, meaning that we're trying to reach that element. We're sending the commands, but there is no response, or there's no valid responses. So we don't have any information coming back from this system at this stage. That's why we indicated clearly with a timeout icon there. Okay, let's go back to our Surveyor. So that's a little bit the Surveyor, the bubble up I've mentioned with the alarm color coding going to the top, the separate timeout going to the top, the orange cross. So you can always see the most severe alarm bubbling up to the top. Yeah, special item is the root. The root is actually the company name. So the company name is specified in the System Center. I can show you because I pinned the System Center. But typically System Center, you can start it from apps. You have System Center here as well. And there on the agents page, you have the system, and there you can specify the name of your organization, and that's also the name of your root tree there. So that's where you can specify your name of your roots of your system. There is one special item there. Let me go back to Zine. Oh, well, actually, we have it on our training as well. So our training, so you can see next to Europe, and that's actually very convenient. We can see that, let me take it maybe a level higher. We can see within our operations, we have 26 alarms in total. Those are alarm statistics behind the name. Of which 22 are critical and 1 is major. We don't care about the minors and the warnings. So we just indicated the first two, the highest severities and the total. The way you show it, and if you, whether or not you show the minors and the warnings, that's up to you. That's a configuration. Actually, let me quickly pop up the docs, and let's search in our docs for alarm statistics. You can see alarm console has, or that actually was, let me show you. Let me do that again. Alarm statistics, because there was a page immediately displaying the alarm statistics in the Surveyor. It's probably somewhere in the same section. So how do I display that? Well, you can have the full procedure spelled out here, or there's also a small video on that as well. So you can take a look at that. But here you can see this is what we are using here. Total alarms, the criticals are shown, but not the others are shown. So that's an example where only the total and the criticals are shown. So you can use, you have some placeholders here that you can use in there. So that's how it's configured, and you can play around with that if you want. So we can see that there are quite some alarms, or not that many within our operations, but we can see that most of them are actually within the Africa region. So we have 18 in Africa, 2 in Americas, and 2 criticals. I'm talking about the criticals only here, and 2 in Europe. If we go into Europe, we can see that all the criticals are in the IP fabric. So actually, you can easily use that to drill down and to see where most of the alarms are happening. So that's the alarm statistics, quite convenient to immediately visualize how severe the impact is on a certain region or a certain view as you created. So the views don't necessarily have to be regions. They could also be just a logical combination of elements together. And actually, an element can also be member of 2 views. So it can be, for instance, in the view Europe, and it can also be in a view modulators. So you can create several views, and an element can be member of 2 views or more views. The whole tree structure that you build is actually very important, as indicated here, is very important for navigating, for finding your way around, of course, but also for security reasons, because I can easily in the security say, oh, this team only needs access to Europe and not US, or the other way around, or maybe read-only access to Europe and read-write access to USA. So you can leverage those views to easily define what they can see and how much access they have on a certain view. So carefully think about your view structure, how to build it up, so that you can easily navigate around and also build your security in a good maintainable way. And of course also for filtering, we'll talk about filtering alarms later on, but I'm only, for instance, interested in getting some critical alarms from the Europe view through email. Well, then I need a Europe view, of course, to be able to do that. So also for filtering purposes, it is convenient to have a good view structure. So Surveyor keeps things organized in your system. Now, one last thing I want to mention about that Surveyor and this session is the properties. So the properties allow you to add additional information to those objects in your Surveyor. So on any of those objects, if it's an element or a view, or a service as well, so you can right click and go to the properties window, and it will pop up that window with some general properties, in this case when it was created and things like that, but there's also some custom properties. And that's what I want to take a look at. So let's go back to my DataMiner system. Let's close this system center and let's go to my training view again. And we have our properties item here. And you can already see that there is a property shown here, category sports. So what is that thing? Well, if I right click on this properties element, and I go to properties, I will see that I have some general stuff, when it was created, last modified and things like that, but I have the custom section as well. And those are all custom properties that I associated with this element. So I can add additional information to an element or a view. So if I have like 1,000 views sites, I can, for instance, say if a site is manned or unmanned, or if I have like 1,000 services, I can put a category on the services or a class, gold, silver, bronze, for instance, which services are gold services, or which services are silver or bronze. In this case, on an element, I can say if the element is used for sports, entertainment, or music, or maybe an asset or a serial number, an asset model can be defined here. Any kind of things like latitude, longitude positions can be added in there. A person who is responsible for that specific view or element, who to contact. So any additional information or properties you have on a specific object, whether it's a view, an element, or a service, doesn't matter, you can attach it to it. So in this case, this element has the category sports, and it is immediately shown in there. So how can we create new properties? Let's say that I want to specify those IoT main backup elements as a little bit with an additional property. So I can right click on there, go to properties, and I need to go to custom properties. And I do have some properties available already, but if I would have a brand new system, it wouldn't have any. So we have quite some clutter already in here, you could say. But how to add new ones, this is very important because not so obvious to see, but you have a small cogwheel here, and you can click on that wheel to go and click add. And now you can add a new property there, or if you select an existing one, let's for instance take that category, you can also click on that one and edit that one to see what the settings are about that item there. Let's forget about the existing one. Let's add a new one, and I want to add one. Well, let's use my first name again, and let's go for a class property. The first two checkboxes here is make this property available for alarm filtering. Basically, it means that this property will also be attached to the alarms in the alarm console, and then I can filter on it. It makes the alarm a little bit heavier if I do this, because all the properties need to be attached to that alarm. The alarm becomes bigger. So if it's not necessary, don't do it. But if you do want to use it in your alarm console, please do so, no problem. So you can add that if you want. If it needs to be updated on value changed, well, be careful if you do that and you change the property, or you often change the property, it might generate quite some alarm updates. So be careful with that one. I do want to display it because I want to see it like this category sports. I do want to display this one in the Surveyor. So I'm going to activate that one, that option in here. Now the format, you have a couple of possibilities to limit what the possible values are. You can go for no format specifier. You can just type in whatever you want. It's just an edit box without any checks. Or you can also do a format and have a regular expression. If you are familiar with regex, you do have these kind of regex combinations. You can find lots of information on the internet where you can say like, oh, it needs to be like a couple of letters and then a dash and then a couple of numbers, for instance. Maybe, for instance, you create some kind of property that needs to be a trouble ticket ID. I want to, of course, match that it fits the format of a trouble ticket ID. So therefore, these kind of regular expressions can come in handy, but I will go for possible options. And with possible options, you can click on add to add the gold, silver, bronze options. So I will just add 3 possible options that they can choose from, and then they can choose from that in there. The metric is just to keep it organized. By default, it's alphabetically organized, but if you want to rearrange it, you can use the metric for that purpose. Okay, so now it's saving this BERT class. I am working on the main device. So the main device, that's for instance the most important one. So I want to make this one the gold device. Oh, I double clicked it. So I want to go for BERT class and say gold. Okay. And now it pops away. So this one is now the gold. And let's take my backup, go to properties, and my backup, I go again to the custom BERT class, and I will give this one the silver class. Okay, so that property is immediately available on all the elements in my system. It's only defined for now on the main. I now also define it on the backup. So now the backup also has a BERT class. So both have the BERT class, but this one, the properties only has a category. So it only has the property if once you define it, and it shows it once you defined it in there. Okay, so in this case, it's immediately visualized now. You don't necessarily have to do it. You can also potentially use it in the alarm console, but it gives extra information to your surveyor here and to the elements, whether it's shown or not. The properties are available there to attach that more detailed information that you want to give to a view, an element, a service. Okay. So that's also indicated here. So click on that cogwheel to add a new item or to edit, select one and edit can also be, or you can delete one, of course, as well. So we created a new one. We've shown it in there. We made possible values. We defined populated the value in there. We just did those 3 steps in the demo. So that's how you attach properties, and the exercise is actually the same thing, so you can also play around with that. Create a new custom property, give it a name, give it the possible values in there, and show it there and try it out on your elements that you have in your DataMiner system. So that was the session on the getting connected. So it was a little bit more than just getting connected. So it's accessing the system. We talked about the layout. We talked about opening cards. We mainly also discussed the sidebar, but of course the DataMiner Surveyor, which is an important one, and how to enrich it with properties we even discussed. So we already went a little bit more in depth in this session. So I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one.